Chapter 324. When Yu Qianqiu saw the dumbfounded expressions of the three people, he couldn't help but feel a little proud of himself. The fire had already fused with him, so his ability to control fire was not just for show. He had never heard of anyone who didn't use an alchemy furnace to concoct pills. He reckoned that such an awesome alchemy technique was the first in the cultivation world. Guan Yu stroked his beard and exclaimed in admiration, clicking his tongue. Chu Ping'er, on the other hand, had a complacent look on her face. She gently hugged Yu Qianqiu's arm with a happy look on her face. She naturally wanted her man to be as powerful as possible. It would be best if he could beat all the men in the world. Chen Feng was so anxious that he was scratching his head and ears, and his heart was itching. It would have been fine if he hadn't seen it, but since he had seen it, how could he endure it? After all, he was also a person who was infatuated with this profession. He immediately hugged Yu Qianqiu's arm and begged, "Boss, how did you release this fire? Quick, teach me." Yu Qianqiu's right arm was enjoying the warmth of Chu Ping'er's embrace. He was very proud. Suddenly, his left arm was hugged by Chen Feng like a woman. What was going on? He suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body. He waved his hand and flung Chen Feng's arm away. His eyes revealed a disgusted expression and he said, "Is my arm for a man to hug? You're a man, why are you acting like a woman? Disgusting, don't touch me." Chen Feng's face was full of endless grievance. Guan Yu and Chu Ping'er couldn't help but laugh out loud. "All right, I don't have much time. I still have something important to tell you." As soon as Yu Qianqiu got down to business, Chu Ping immediately let go of his arm. A handful of restriction-breaking pills, both red and purple in color, were placed on the table. Then, he grabbed 2 true and fake restriction-breaking spirit herbs and a bunch of supplementary spirit herbs. The almost transparent flame emerged from his palm again. This time, Yu Qianqiu did not ask Chu Ping'er to help. Instead, he threw all the spirit herbs into the flame. The flame was as long as a pillar. The 9 kinds of spirit herbs were quickly separated into 9 layers and refined at the same time. At the same time, the impurities in them were removed. Then, the crystal-clear liquid that looked like a 9-layered exquisite pagoda appeared again. Chen Feng's eyes almost popped out of his eye sockets. The fire released by a palm could actually be divided into 9 segments to refine the spiritual herbs at the same time. Was there really such a marvelous technique of controlling fire in this world? The other 2 might not know, but he knew how difficult it was to do so. Chen Feng's eyes lit up again. The refining method was almost the same as the previous ones. Apart from placing the true and false restriction-breaking spirit herbs together, Yu Qianqiu refined the spirit herbs at the same time in order to save time. The subsequent steps were the same. Soon, a handful of spirit pills that were as translucent as crystals were placed on the table. They were still emitting a misty white halo like mist. Chen Feng frowned. He quickly walked up to the table and grabbed the purple, red, and transparent spirit pills. He clicked his tongue and said, "The male and female restriction-breaking spirit herbs look the same, but I didn't expect them to be so amazing. Refining them separately and refining them together can actually produce a spirit pill of 3 colors. This is really mysterious." He sniffed the spirit pills and nodded. "The aroma is also different." Guan Yu also walked up to the table and looked at the spirit pills. He clicked his tongue in wonder. Chu Ping'er obviously had a soft spot for the transparent spirit pills. She would occasionally close her other eye to look at them. No one knew what she saw through the transparent spirit pills. Yu Qianqiu pointed at the spirit pills on the table and said, "The red one is called the false restriction-breaking pill, the purple one is called the true restriction-breaking pill, and the transparent one is called the restriction-breaking pill. After consuming these 3 spirit pills, as long as you have enough spirit stones, you can absorb their spiritual qi before the effects of the spirit pills dissipate." You can quickly convert the spiritual chi into true essence and quickly increase your cultivation level. If you also have a spirit pill that can help you break through a bottleneck, you can break through to the early stage of tribulation passing in a short period of time. After that, there will be no effect and you will have to rely on your own cultivation. Hearing this, the three of them were all shocked. Guan Yu looked at the spirit pills in his hand and said, "There are such magical spirit pills in this world. This is simply incredible. Since they all have such miraculous effects, why do these spirit pills have three colors and are called the restriction breaking pill, the true restriction breaking pill, and the false restriction breaking pill? There must be a difference, right?" Chen Feng was indeed a professional and immediately grasped the crux of the problem. Yu Qianqiu looked at him with approval and said with a smile, "The restriction-breaking pill will not have any side effects after helping you break through to the tribulation-passing stage. Although the true restriction-breaking pill can help you break through to the tribulation-passing stage, it will accumulate a strange poison in your body that is almost impossible to remove. In the future, no matter how hard you cultivate, your cultivation level will be limited to the late stage of tribulation-passing stage. You will never have the chance to break through to the soul formation stage. Isn't that the same?" Guan Yu picked up a purple spirit pill and said with a smile, "It's already very good to be able to cultivate to the late stage of tribulation passing stage. The soul formation stage is just a legend. I haven't heard of anyone breaking through to the soul formation stage in the current cultivation world." Chen Feng and Chu Ping nodded in agreement. Yu Qianqiu smiled faintly and said, "I recently became the disciple of a new master." The three of them were stunned when they heard this. They didn't know why he suddenly said this. Guan Yu's expression was a little twitching as he smiled and said, "That, cough cough. Boss, why did you become the disciple of another master? It seems that changing masters in the cultivation world is a disgraceful thing. You're already the third one, right? If this gets out, I'm afraid your reputation won't be good and you'll be easily condemned by the cultivators in the world." "Condemned my ass. Whoever wants to condemn me can condemn me." Yu Qianqiu sneered to express his disdain. He looked at the three of them and said proudly, "My master is amazing. Didn't Yin Chang say that the soul formation stage is just a legend? Hee hee. I'm really sorry, but my master is a soul formation stage cultivator." "What? Say that again." Guan Yu and Chen Feng exclaimed in unison. They both thought they had heard wrong. Chu Ping, and Bai Suzhen had heard the story of the demon ghost realm torture enforcer from Yu Qianqiu, so they already knew that soul formation stage cultivators really existed in this world. Naturally, there was nothing to be surprised about. Yu Qianqiu looked at the two shocked guys and said mockingly, "Not only is my master a soul formation stage cultivator, he's also a soul formation final stage cultivator. Whoever doesn't become the disciple of such an awesome master is an idiot." "Really?" the two of them exclaimed in unison again. Yu Qianqiu nodded to the two of them with certainty and said, "Do I look like someone who would lie to you? Why don't you think about it? Do I care about ordinary tribulation passing stage cultivators, even those at the final stage? It's even more impossible for me to become their disciple." The two of them stood there in disbelief. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand in disdain and sneered. "Two ignorant idiots. Is a soul formation stage cultivator worth such a big reaction from you? Let me tell you, there are many soul formation stage cultivators in this world. It's just that most of them don't interact with ordinary cultivators, so not many people in the cultivation world know about them. After I go out this time, I'm going to visit another soul formation mid-stage cultivator." The two of them still stood there motionlessly. They probably wouldn't be able to recover for a while. After all, this was something that subverted their worldview. It was very hard for them to accept. Chu Ping looked at Yu Qianqiu with admiration. She picked up the red spirit pill and asked, "Then what's the use of this fake limit-breaking pill?" "Oh. That's for the enemy to eat. Whoever eats it, once their cultivation reaches the tribulation passing stage, they will immediately wither and die. Yu Qianqiu said indifferently, but Chu Ping was shocked. She immediately threw the red spirit pill back on the table, afraid that she would be poisoned and grow old. Women. What they were afraid of was aging. The sound of the red spirit pill bouncing on the table made Guan Yu and Chen Feng come back to their senses. The two of them looked at each other and shook their heads. Guan Yu sighed. Boss, you didn't call me here just to watch you refine pills, right? Did you want to let the triad members take the limit-breaking pill? Smart. Yu Qianqiu gave him a thumbs up and asked Chen Feng, did you see the steps clearly? I have a lot of things to do, so I'll have to rely on you in the future. Yes, I saw it clearly. That, hee. Chen Feng smiled embarrassedly. If boss could teach me that fire control technique, it would be great. I'm sure it would be easier to refine the limit-breaking pill. No. Yu Qianqiu refused bluntly. It's not that I'm stingy, but this fire control technique is very powerful. It's my trump card. I won't teach it to anyone for now. Besides, I'm not teaching it to you now for your own good. You'll understand when the time comes. In fact, there was something in his heart that he didn't say out loud. I'll teach it to someone when I'm sure it won't threaten my safety. Otherwise, I won't do it even if you beat me to death. This is my patent. He said it so bluntly, but Chen Feng wasn't unhappy because of his refusal. He just smiled enviously. He looked at the three-colored spirit pill on the table and asked, Boss, since the red one is poisonous, there's no need to refine it. We can't use it anyway. Who said we can't use it? Yu Qianqiu glared at him. Just focus on refining it. I'll naturally give it to someone who needs it. I have a big show to perform. Don't be lazy and ruin my plans. Chapter 325. No. Chen Feng patted his chest and promised, as long as we have the spiritual herbs, it won't be a problem for you. Yu Qianqiu gave him a look that said he didn't dare to believe him. Guan Yu frowned and interrupted, if the limit-breaking pill really has such a magical effect, it will be a good thing. The problem is that it's a bit troublesome to break through the bottleneck. We have the foundation establishment pill, the spirit pill for breaking through to the core formation stage, and the 7-star blood orchid fruit for breaking through to the nascent soul stage, but what about the crossing calamity stage? In the first group of our heroes, there are many late-stage nascent soul stage members. They are the backbone of our 6 regiments. It's necessary to let them break through to the crossing calamity stage first. Otherwise, when the other members catch up, it will affect their prestige in the army. Besides, the others will break through to the crossing calamity stage sooner or later. Old Guan. We have the recipe for the spirit pill that can break through the bottleneck. Boss gave it to me a long time ago. We also have the other spiritual herbs, but we don't have the main ingredient, colorful Ganoderma. If we have this treasure, we won't even need the foundation establishment pill anymore. It can be used from the Qi refinement stage to the crossing calamity stage. Chen Feng looked at Yu Qianqiu with a smile and said, Boss is very resourceful. I've never seen anything that you can't get. I think you have a way to solve this colorful Ganoderma. Yu Qianqiu glanced at him coldly and ignored him. He asked Guan Yu, Yunchang, how many old members are there in the 6 regiments? How many of them have reached the peak of the late-stage nascent soul stage? Guan Yu thought for a moment and said, excluding those who died in battle, there are less than 200 old members. But most of them are at the late-stage nascent soul stage. Most of them are at the peak of the late-stage nascent soul stage. There are about 100 of them. Okay, we'll do as you say. Let's solve the problem of the old members first. They don't need to take the limit-breaking pill. Maybe they will have a chance to reach the soul formation stage in the future. Yu Qianqiu pondered. Guan Yu nodded. Suddenly, he was startled and said, "Boss, you mean, let the members of the underworld take the true restriction-breaking pill? Didn't you say that the limit-breaking pill had no side effects? Why did you make them consume the true restriction-breaking pill? Some things are not easy to decide right now. I don't know if the pill formula is true or not. I still need to test it out. Let's not talk about this first." Chen Feng. Yu Qianqiu turned around and said, "I'll leave the elixirs for the 100 old members to break through to the tribulation stage to you. Other things can wait." This. Chen Feng smiled bitterly and spread out his hands. "Boss, you have to give me the rainbow lingji first." Yu Qianqiu ignored him. Instead, he nodded at Chu Ping'er. Chu Ping'er glared at Chen Feng and left. Who asked that guy to make things difficult for her man? The couple spoke in riddles, causing Guan Yu and Chen Feng to be confused. After a while, Chu Ping'er came back and threw something on the table. She said to Chen Feng in annoyance, "Is this the rainbow lingji you wanted?" A 7-colored lingji mushroom the size of 2 palms was swaying on the table. Chen Feng rubbed his eyes in disbelief and walked over to the lingji mushroom to examine it carefully. After confirming that there was no mistake, he looked at Guan Yu awkwardly and said with a twitching expression, "Old Guan, it really is a 7-colored lingji mushroom." He really didn't expect that such a precious spiritual herb would appear so easily. It really made him speechless. Although Guan Yu was confused before, after seeing it, he didn't feel that there was anything to be surprised about. He was already used to the surprises that Yu Qianqiu gave him. Just think about it. All the spiritual herbs in Utopia had been single-handedly gathered by this guy. The variety was so abundant that it made one's hair stand on end. Even the major sects in the world of cultivators could not compare to it. He really didn't know what this guy was doing outside all day long to gather all the good stuff. Guan Yu believed that if he were to do it, he definitely wouldn't have the ability to do it. Sometimes, even if the conditions were the same or even better, he wouldn't be able to do anything without the ability. He was full of admiration. This was something that Guan Yu often sighed about in his heart even though he didn't say it out loud. Rare spirit herbs, priceless pill recipes, seemingly inexhaustible spirit stones, an ocean's worth of cultivation manuals, and the occasional cultivation seedlings with spiritual roots. All of these were brought back by this guy alone. In the beginning, Guan Yu had thought that it was luck. However, after interacting with him for the past few years, he had completely changed his mind. Although this guy often acted like a gangster and seemed to be fooling around at a young age, he was actually farsighted and had the spirit of a superior. He had managed to support such a huge family business through all sorts of nonsense. He had gathered people to build an army and constantly improved the training of the army. He had gathered spirit herbs to open up a spirit herb plantation. He had strongly supported Qin Fang's pill refinement and equipment refinement. He had reclaimed wastelands to be self-sufficient. There was also a series of security measures. All of these showed that this guy was making arrangements and preparing to do something big. Otherwise, no one would do all these things without any benefits because it was meaningless. Chapter 326. Yu Qianqiu happily nodded his head. He took out 3 storage pouches and walked around the table. First, he gave one to each of them and said, "Each storage pouch contains 10,000 high-grade spirit stones. Feel free to use them. If it's not enough, we'll talk about it later." Then, he gave one to the last person and said, "You're a nascent soul cultivator, so you might need a bit more. There are 100,000 high-grade spirit stones inside. Alright, let's begin here." With a heavy expression, Guan Yu took out 3 purple spirit pills from the table and silently gave one to each of them. After the 3 of them bowed to the heads, they stood up and sat cross-legged on the ground. They swallowed the spirit pills, then grabbed a handful of spirit stones from their storage pouches. Then, they closed their eyes and began to catalyze the spirit pill's absorption of spiritual energy. After a while, the skin of the three of them turned red, and they began to tremble uncontrollably. It was obvious that they were in pain. It was probably a reaction from the spirit pill's medicinal effects. The three of them abruptly opened their eyes, revealing expressions of disbelief and shock. After looking at each other, they closed their eyes once again. Yu Qianqiu and the others did not say a word as they silently observed the three's reactions. From the speed at which the three of them absorbed spiritual energy, it was easy to determine the difference in their cultivation. The higher their cultivation, the more frequently they would take out spirit stones from their storage pouches to absorb spiritual energy. The weakest among them would take a long time to finish absorbing a handful. The spirit stones, which had been depleted of spiritual energy, gradually accumulated in front of the three of them. The nascent soul cultivator in particular had more spirit stones than the other two combined. 10 hours later, the three of them slowly regained their normal complexion. They opened their eyes almost at the same time, and their expressions were one of extreme shock. Yu Qianqiu nodded his head to himself. It seemed that the medicinal effects of these spirit pills could only last for 10 hours. It was exactly as recorded in the pill recipe Jade Archive. He smiled and asked, "How are the effects of these spirit pills? How do you feel?" The three of them excitedly stood up and bowed. The first person closest to Yu Qianqiu replied, "Leader, when the spirit pill's medicinal properties spread through your body, you feel like you're in a furnace. Large amounts of purple gas appear in your body, and the temperature of the purple gas is very high. However, when you absorb the spiritual energy from the spirit stone into your body, you immediately feel a cool sensation, and the spiritual energy is quickly refined into true essence by the purple gas." She said, "I just noticed that foundation building cultivators use more than 100 high-grade spirit stones, core formation cultivators used more than 3,000, and nascent soul cultivators used almost 90,000. There's a huge difference in the amount of spirit stones used for each level of cultivation. Sigh. Women are more meticulous than men." Yu Qianqiu sighed and said, "Yunchang, do you know the cultivation level of everyone in Utopia?" Guan Yu thought for a while and replied, "There are more than 2,000 people in the Qi refinement stage, nearly 4,000 in the foundation establishment stage, nearly 3,000 in the core formation stage, and nearly 800 in the nascent soul stage." Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, "According to the pill recipe, a spirit pill needs more than 100 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage to the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, more than 300 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the middle stage to the early stage of the core formation stage, about 1,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the late stage to the early stage of the core formation stage, and more than 3,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage. In other words, a person will need nearly 900,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the late stage of the nascent soul stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage. How many spirit stones will a person in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage need to use spirit pills to improve their cultivation level to the early stage of the tribulation stage?" Chen Feng counted with his fingers and muttered, "About 1,400 high-grade spirit stones for the foundation establishment stage, 39,000 for the core formation stage, and 1,170,000 for the nascent soul stage. Adding them all up, there's no need to count with your fingers. Even if he alone needs 1,200,000 high-grade spirit stones to break through from the early stage of the foundation establishment stage to the early stage of the tribulation stage, let's not count the others and just assume that the 4,000 foundation establishment cultivators are all in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. How many spirit stones do you think these 4,000 people will need to break through to the early stage of the tribulation stage?" After Yu Qianqiu asked the few of them, he waved his hand and exclaimed, nearly 5 billion high-grade spirit stones. Where are we going to get so many spirit stones all of a sudden? This is not counting the current core formation and nascent soul cultivators, let alone those in the chi refinement stage. 5 billion. The few of them were shocked by such a huge number and looked at each other. After a moment of silence, Chen Feng smiled awkwardly and said, "It's nothing. When has Utopia ever lacked money? Boss can settle it easily." Yu Qianqiu rolled his eyes and looked at him coldly. "Why don't I let you go out and give it a try? I don't need much, just give me 1 billion. No, I don't have that ability." Chen Feng waved his hand repeatedly and hid behind Guan Yu without saying a word. "What should we do then?" Chu Ping came over and gently held Yu Qianqiu's arm. "Why don't we stop this plan for now and think about it again when we have the money?" Yu Qianqiu's gloomy face immediately relaxed. Actually, it was not that he could not take out 5 billion high-grade spirit stones. Just the top-grade spirit stones alone were worth far more than that. Furthermore, he still had the divine-grade spirit stones in his hands. The key was that he treated them as his final assets. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not squander the divine-grade and top-grade spirit stones. Patting the jade-like hand on his arm, he said to Guan Yu and Chen Feng, "The plan will proceed as planned. With the current financial situation, we will first raise the cultivation of the old team members to the tribulation crossing stage. Then, we will help the other nascent soul stage members. As for the remaining team members, we will slowly deal with them according to their positions in the army and their cultivation. I will think of a way to get the spirit stones. Can't the essence chi pill also increase cultivation? Can we use the essence chi pill instead of the spirit stones?" Chen Feng flashed out and asked. It seemed that he also knew that there was a big gap and wanted to help. "The essence chi pill won't work. This limit-breaking pill can only directly interact with spirit chi. Nothing else is useful. You just need to carry out the plan," Yu Qianqiu said with some helplessness. In his heart, he was also muttering, could this be the chemical reaction mentioned in his previous life? Guan Yu and Chen Feng looked at each other and nodded, "Got it. So much money is needed. How are you going to think of a way?" Chu Ping said with some worry. "The Wu clan of the 4 major clans still owes me tens of millions. He. They dared to renege on their debt. This money must be paid back in double." Yu Qianqiu suddenly sneered and said with a somewhat sinister expression, "If it really doesn't work, I will rob, steal, and cheat. Whoever has money, I will mess with them. At most, I will become the enemy of the entire cultivation world. Anyway, there are not many good people. Who cares? In short, I cannot delay my plan." Chapter 327. Hearing his words, the 3 of them were stunned. Chu Ping said doubtfully, "That's not a good idea, right?" Guan Yu and Chen Feng exchanged glances. Based on their understanding of Yu Qianqiu, they believed that he would really do such a thing. He. I was just joking. How could I really do such a thing? Yu Qianqiu grinned as he comforted Chu Ping. Then, he said to Guan Yu and Chen Feng, who were looking down on him, "Chen Feng, hurry up with the alchemy. If you need any spiritual herbs, look for Ping. Yunchang, let's go to the military camp to take a look. I haven't been there for a long time. I wonder how the training is going." It was indeed not good to talk about cheating in front of Chu Ping, as it would damage his glorious image. Yu Qianqiu found an excuse guiltily and wanted to leave. Guan Yu and Yu Qianqiu walked to the door together when they heard Chen Feng's voice behind them. "Sister-in-law, can I ask you for a favor?" The 2 of them stopped and turned around curiously, not knowing what Chen Feng wanted from Chu Ping. What is it? Do you still need to ask me?" Chu Ping said in surprise. In her impression, Chen Feng had a lot of authority in Utopia. Moreover, Yu Qianqiu was here too. What matter couldn't he solve with Yu Qianqiu? Why did he have to look for her? Chen Feng nodded and bowed. Sister-in-law, look at my subordinates. They are all men. I don't even have a woman who knows how to wash clothes. I, Chen Feng, am also a handsome man, but now I'm so sloppy. Chen Feng, what do you mean? Do you want my wife to wash your clothes for you? Yu Qianqiu immediately interrupted him. His face sank, and he felt uneasy. Could it be that this scoundrel wants to hit on my woman because she's pretty? No, no. Boss, don't misunderstand. Chen Feng panicked. He waved his hands and said, I just want to ask sister-in-law to transfer a female guard from Ethereal Palace to help me take care of my daily life. Yu Qianqiu and Guan Yu looked at each other suspiciously. The former rubbed his chin and walked back, looking at Chen Feng with interest. Chen Feng's eyes darted around, obviously feeling a little guilty. A strange smile hung on Yu Qianqiu's face as he said to Chu Ping, Pick an older and more experienced female guard from Ethereal Palace. Let her go with Chen Feng and take care of his daily life. Chen Feng hurriedly said, No need, no need. It's better for those with experience to stay in the Misty Palace. Sister Bai and sister-in-law are in need of them. I found a female guard quite diligent recently. I'll take her. This time, Chu Ping and Guan Yu also noticed something. Yu Qianqiu said in a strange tone, Since you have your eyes on someone, you should have said so earlier. What's her name? Just tell me and let her go with you. Chen Feng immediately showed a look of gratitude and said, Her surname is Xiao. Her name is Xiao Wanqing. Guan Yu pinched off a few of his long hairs, and Chen Feng's eyes were almost pleading as he looked at him, afraid that he would say, I don't want to do it. It felt like he was entrusting his lifelong happiness to his boss. Yu Qianqiu's heartstrings trembled. He secretly lamented, Xiao Wanqing, I know you have a crush on me. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Otherwise, you and I might be fated. Unfortunately, I can't tolerate sand in my eyes. Seeing Chen Feng's anxious gaze, Yu Qianqiu made up his mind. He clenched his teeth and said, I can see that Director Chen likes you very much. Then you should be his woman. After saying that, he immediately said to Guan Yu, Yunchang, let's go to the barracks to take a look. After saying that, he walked out first. He couldn't stand Chu Ping's inquiring gaze. It was better to hide first. When he thought of Furong and Wu Lixue outside, he felt a headache. What if these three women met each other? Guan Yu came out and quickly caught up to him. He asked, Boss, what's with Xiao Wanqing saying that she let you down in the past? Actually, it's nothing. She's just thinking too much. I don't think she let me down in any way. Yu Qianqiu sighed. Back then, I had a few friends on Fuxian Island. Xiao Wanqing was one of them. I invited them to go with me, but they refused. So, I forcefully detained them. Your subordinate, Gu Qingyun, knows about this. He's one of the parties involved. She said she let me down. Maybe it's because she rejected me. Oh. Guan Yu's voice was filled with doubt. He was thinking of finding a chance to ask Gu Qingyun. The two of them had already left Misty Palace. Yu Qianqiu didn't want to linger on this topic. He coughed and said, Yunchang, do you have a woman that you like? If you need me to be your matchmaker, tell me. I'll definitely support you. Unfortunately, you won't agree to the woman I want. Guan Yu's mind was filled with the image of a woman in a white robe with a gentle face that could topple cities. He snorted and said, Ask you to be my matchmaker? No need. I don't want to meet a second Xiao Wanqing. If there's really someone I like, I'll go ask Sister Bai directly. Boss, you don't have to get involved. Hee hee. That's good. That's good. I'm busy now. I'm afraid I don't have time. Yu Qianqiu smiled awkwardly. Chapter 328. Boss, wait up. The two of them had just left Ethereal Palace and were about to ride their swords to the army camp when they heard someone shouting. Turning around, they saw Chen Feng running out excitedly, followed by Chu Ping, and Xiao Wanqing. Boss, I want to ask you something. Chen Feng chuckled. Yu Qianqiu found him an eyesore no matter how he looked at him. What? You want a woman? Go find one yourself, don't look for me. No, I'm not that. I'm not that greedy. Chen Feng almost said the wrong thing in a moment of desperation. Yu Qianqiu glared at him. Spit it out. Chen Feng was in a good mood. No matter how much Yu Qianqiu scolded him, he wouldn't be unhappy. He nodded and bowed. Didn't you say that the limit-breaking pill is different from the real and fake pills? I want Xiao Wanqing to raise her cultivation first. That won't be a problem, right? He just had a girlfriend, and now he wanted to please her. What a good man. Yo. Since when are you so proactive? I want to, F***ck. Yu Qianqiu suddenly slapped his forehead and pointed at Chen Feng. It's all your fault. I almost forgot to tell you the most important thing. When Chu Ping walked over, he said to them, remember, this limit-breaking pill doesn't have any side effects. The only flaw is that after the effects, the person will be unable to move for a month. If you want to raise your cultivation again, you'll have to wait for a month before you can take the second limit-breaking pill. Ah! How can this be? Chen Feng exclaimed. Guan Yu and Chu Ping also frowned. Only Xiao Wanqing, who was standing quietly at the side, didn't know what they were talking about. Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, this is the difference between the limit-breaking pill and the true and pseudo pills. The poison from the true and pseudo pills will accumulate, but the poison from the limit-breaking pill will be automatically consumed by the body. The body will be stiff for a month to neutralize the poison. If you want to take the limit-breaking pill, remember to arrange the things at hand first. Also, it's not a good feeling to be awake but unable to move for a month. This is not meditation, you have to be mentally prepared. The few of them didn't expect that there was such a powerful relationship, and their expressions changed. Imagine being awake, but unable to move your body for an entire month. Sure enough, there was a price to pay for improving one's cultivation. It was not an easy thing to do. Chu Ping gently walked to Yu Qianqiu's side, bit her lips and said, a month of pain can be exchanged for an increase in cultivation. I'm a little worried about you going out alone. Why don't you go out a month later? It's always good to increase your cultivation. I can take care of you here. It's still the best to have a wife and a child by my side. Yu Qianqiu smiled bitterly and said, I still have a lot of things to do, and some things have to be settled quickly. How can I not go out for a month? We'll talk about it in the future. Oh right, Ping, if big sister comes out, tell her about what happened today, so that she can be prepared. Got it. Chu Ping looked at Yu Qianqiu and nodded. Her man was always on the move, and he might face danger often. She felt her heart ache for him. When Xiao Wanqing heard the tender words of the two men, she felt a little worried. Don't spread the news about the limit-breaking pill to anyone else. Just as Yu Qianqiu finished speaking, he heard the faint sounds of fighting from afar. He knew that the troops were training, so he turned to Guan Yu and said, let's go take a look. The long swords on their backs shot out at the same time, and the two of them stepped on their swords and flew into the sky. The three people in front of the ethereal palace watched them leave. In a hilly area with undulating mountains, the two of them stood on their swords and looked down. 6 regiments of troops were fighting in 6 different places, and it was hard to tell who had the upper hand. Yu Qianzhou observed carefully and found that most of the people from the 6th Bureau who were training were wearing black suits. What was strange was that there were dozens of people in white suits in the middle of the 6 regiments. Yu Qianzhou asked curiously, "What's the meaning of this?" Guan Yu observed the situation below and said, "Today's training is to fight with numbers, and to fight with the weak against the strong. Those in white suits are the nascent soul experts of each regiment, and they are to be used as hypothetical enemies." The moment he said that, Yu Qianzhou's interest was piqued. The people below seemed to be in a mess, but under the command of their commander, they advanced and retreated in a measured manner. Be it attacking or defending, they were able to exert their collective strength to the maximum. As soon as the white-clothed members made their move, the black-clothed members with higher cultivation would immediately come forward to block the attack, while the other black-clothed members would seize the opportunity to launch a group attack. Even those with weaker cultivation would be able to release a flying sword to confuse the enemy. After a series of fierce attacks, the white-clothed members would be forced to defend themselves. Yu Qianzhou nodded repeatedly and said, "Fighting alone is what hooligans do. This is more like a military battle. You guys finally put in some effort and didn't slack off. I was really afraid that you guys would just eat and drink well every day and just laze around." Guan Yu smiled bitterly and said, "Slack off. You've already pointed at my nose and scolded me. I've even dismissed 2 regiments for you. Who dares to slack off? Do you want me to take it slow and wait for a few more years? A few years plus a few years, how many years is that? Also, do you really think that everyone here can reach the soul formation realm? Let me tell you, that's impossible. Including you and me, maybe no one will have that opportunity. Do you think that I'm harming them? Then tell me, if they don't meet us, how many of them will have the opportunity to reach the tribulation passing stage? Not to mention the tribulation passing stage, I'm afraid that half of them can't even reach the nascent soul stage." Guan Yu was silent. He was awakened by the 20 billion high-grade spirit stones. He knew that he was being too emotional. Yu Qianzhou's words were reasonable. In fact, there were some things that Yu Qianzhou couldn't tell him. If he was alone in the cultivation world, he wouldn't need to spend so much effort and he could live a good life. But his parents were old. Because of him, they were brought to this world that didn't belong to them. They didn't fit in with the people here. The outside world was where they should stay. Therefore, he had the responsibility and obligation to send them back safely so that they could enjoy their old age. He could wait a few more years, but he was afraid that his parents couldn't. Every time he came back, he would be too embarrassed to meet them. For this reason, he had to control both the cultivation world and the imperial power of the secular world. He had to create a good living environment for the elderly. In fact, it wasn't just that. He had some ideals in his heart. The pillar of the state General Shi Wenguang's prestige in the Western Army was irreplaceable. Moreover, he wasn't young anymore. If he waited too long, who knew what would happen? The cultivation world was in chaos. If it calmed down in a few years, it would be even more difficult. Also, Bai Changchun would go to that *T Eastern Holy Land in a few years. He was afraid that the demon domain wouldn't be at ease without the old man guarding it. There wasn't enough time. Chapter 329. After a small argument, the two of them stopped in the air and fell silent. Yu Qianzhou suddenly sighed. "Yunchang, do you think that I'm only doing this for myself and not for everyone else?" Guan Yu shook his head. "No, you're right. I'm just being emotional. It's good that you understand. There are some things you need to know." Yu Qianzhou looked down and said slowly, "Only when my goal is achieved can I create better conditions for everyone to live better. If I lose the ability to lead them, or if I don't care about them and don't restrain them, and throw them out into the outside world, they won't be able to do anything. Do you believe me? Guan Yu thought for a while and nodded. Indeed, even though this group of people was making a big commotion, if they didn't have Yu Qianzhou's strong support, once they were thrown out into the outside world, they wouldn't even be enough for the righteous and demonic Tao to have a feast. Whether it was supporting a mortal island that occupied the top spot in the cultivation world or 10,000 demons that dominated the demonic Tao, if any one of them made a move, it would be hard for these people to resist. As Yu Qianzhou said, as long as he was doing well, everyone would be better off. This was the truth. I understand. Guan Yu let out a sigh and suddenly felt enlightened. He asked, "What are you going to do?" Yu Qianzhou frowned. For now, I'm going to follow what I said before. First, help the old members break through to the early stage of tribulation passing. They put in more effort and deserve better treatment. It's worth it to spend more time on them. For them, I'll just give them the white limit breaking pill. For the others, I'll give them according to their positions and cultivation. See how fast I gather spirit stones. Take it slowly from top to bottom. Noted. Guan Yu nodded. He looked down and asked, "Do you want to go down and take a look?" The battle below was getting more and more intense. Yu Qianzhou took a look and said, "There's no need. Let's go to Dong Guosu's place and take a look." The two of them rode their swords and left. There was an open space that covered an area of 100 acres, and there were nearly 100 independent courtyards, which almost formed a small town. This was the place for those who already had a spouse to live in. There was also a group of older people led by Dong Guosu who lived here. A few hundred meters away from the town was a plain. Figures were busy working in the fields. The thriving and lush greenery showed that the crops here were growing well. A 2-meter wide and 1,000-meter long stone road was paved in the middle of the plain. The construction was quite large, but for Utopia, which had nearly 10,000 cultivators, it was only a matter of a day. The two of them put away their swords and landed in the middle of the road. Yu Qianzhou immediately saw the vegetables by the side of the road. Yu Chonggui frowned and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? The child has grown up and has his own things to do. Do you think he will let you tie him up with a belt every day?" "Mother, I heard from others that our eldest brother is very powerful." Yu Wuchou looked at the streaks of light in admiration. Dong Guosu also laughed and said, "Madam, you don't know, but the leader is the #1 figure in our cultivation world." "Who doesn't know Yu Qianzhou?" His wife also comforted him, "Yes. Madam, the leader is a man who does great things. He has a lot of things to do. No matter how powerful he is still my son. How dare he not recognize me as his mother?" Shui Enyang felt very wronged and wiped away her tears. Yu Chonggui and Yu Wuchou's faces twitched again. The men in this family, including Yu Qianzhou, were most afraid of Shui Enyang wiping away her tears, so Yu Qianzhou ran away first. At this time, a violent explosion suddenly came from the distant hilly area, attracting everyone's attention. Dong Guosu looked into the distance and sighed, if only this old man was a few decades younger. They are a group of strong people. The leader is really generous. Yu Wuchou smacked his lips and his eyes lit up. It must be Chief Instructor Guan's men training again. If only I could be like my eldest brother and the others. Sigh. But sister-in-law said it's dangerous and won't let me go see. Then, he turned to Shui Enyang and smiled apologetically, "Mother, why don't you talk to sister-in-law? She listens to you the most. If you ask her, she will definitely agree. You're even beating around the bush when asking her to give birth to a grandson for me. Which part of her listens to me? She doesn't even respect me, her mother-in-law. That's right. She can fly around in the sky like a fairy. Why would she respect a mortal like me?" Tears of grievance flowed down Mistress Shui's face again. Yu Wuchou stuck out his tongue and quickly shut his mouth. "Nonsense. She treats you well every day. When did she ever take you seriously? Do you still have a mouth? Yu Changgue shouted. Another explosion came from afar, interrupting his words. He frowned deeply. This place was isolated from the outside world, but his son's men were training here all day long. What was his son trying to do? Could it be that there was an emperor in the cultivation world? He suspected that his son was trying to rebel. In his mind, this was the only possibility, so he was always worried. But he had guessed it. Chapter 330. The first house in Utopia was the bamboo house built by Bai Suzhen. Now that it had been renovated, there were 3 people living there, Bai Suzhen's uncle, Shui Qingkong, and 2 of Yu Qianzhou's disciples, Hong Qi and Zhang Peng. Guan Yu and Shui Qingkong had been chased away by a certain someone to take a walk in the bamboo forest. The bamboo forest was quiet, and the ground was covered with bamboo leaves. Occasionally, some of them would fall. This was one of the forbidden areas in Utopia. Without permission, no one was allowed to enter. Yu Qianzhou, who was sitting in the bamboo pavilion, felt a little emotional. He thought back to the days when he was alone with Bai Suzhen. At that time, there were only the 2 of them here, and Bai Suzhen would play the zither every day. Now, things were the same, but people had changed. The past could not be kept, and there were many more things to worry about. Knowing that his 2 disciples had broken through to the foundation-building realm, Yu Qianzhou was very happy. Zhang Peng's innate spiritual root was indeed powerful. Although he was a late cultivator, he had still caught up to Hong Qi. After a moment of happiness, he asked, "What techniques have you been cultivating?" The 2 disciples looked at each other respectfully. Hong Qi bowed and said, "Master, after junior brother and I broke through to the foundation-building realm, we did not cultivate any techniques. Chief Instructor Guan said that you should be the one to teach us the techniques we should cultivate. No one else has the right to teach us any techniques." Now, Hong Qi was already a young man. Although he was younger than Zhang Peng, he was the first to enter the sect, so he had the advantage of his senior brother. Yu Qianzhou nodded and smiled. He stood up and walked out of the bamboo pavilion. He paced around the courtyard, deep in thought. The 2 disciples, one tall and one short, followed behind him quietly, not daring to disturb him. After some time, Yu Qianzhou took out 2 jade archives and copied a set of incantations on the spot. He turned around and handed them to Miao Yi and Miao Yi respectively, saying, "This is a set of sword incantations called the Guiyuan sword incantation. When cultivated to a high level, you can control 10,000 swords at the same time to subdue your enemies. After memorizing the technique, destroy the jade archives immediately. You are not to teach it to anyone without permission. Your disciples will remember." "Thank you, Master." The 2 of them took the jade archives excitedly. They had finally obtained the cultivation method they wanted to cultivate. Naturally, they were happy. Yu Qianzhou suddenly flicked his sleeve, and a group of cold lights flew out from his storage pouch. In the blink of an eye, they flew into the bamboo forest, moving as fast as lightning. Despite their speed, they didn't touch a single bamboo. The 2 of them were dazzled by this sight. From the back garden to the front garden of the general's mansion, a group of busy servants once again saw the servant who was secretly spreading praises in the mansion and came and went freely. Yu Qianzhou was dressed like a servant. He ignored the other servants and swaggered on his own path, letting others secretly talk about him. However, a pregnant woman in front of him attracted his attention. She was holding her stomach with both hands and was being supported by another woman for a stroll. The pregnant woman was Bao Wansher, and the one supporting her was Si Tuhui. The 2 women turned around slowly and happened to see the smiling Yu Qianzhou. The 2 women were startled. Yu Qianzhou quickly walked over and bowed, "Greetings to the 2 young madams." When he raised his head, he added softly, "Bao Wansher, I haven't seen you for a while. How did your stomach get big because of Shu Tian? I will definitely help you teach him a lesson the next time I see him. He swaggered away after saying this. Si Tuhui covered her mouth and chuckled. Bao Wancher was ashamed and angry, but she did not dare to say anything. After leaving the general's residence, he bought a few sugarcane on the way to the back door of Wanhua Tower. After knocking on the door, a servant led him in. He swaggered to the small courtyard with ease. The sound of the zither coming from upstairs was a little messy. Yu Qianqiu was also a person who knew the zither. He immediately heard that something was wrong. Just as he was puzzled, the sound of the zither stopped. The enchantress of 100 Charms appeared at the window and looked at him with a smile. Master's wife. Yu Qianqiu smiled and bowed downstairs. His smile was a little awkward. He felt a little guilty every time he came. He did not know what he was worried about. When he went upstairs and pushed the door open, he saw the enchantress of 100 Charms sitting on a chair. She crossed her dazzling white legs and said in a sweet voice, "What a rare guest. I haven't seen you for a long time. Have you forgotten about me, master's wife? How would I dare? How would I dare? Disciple is here to visit master's wife." Yu Qianqiu smiled apologetically. "You bastard, where have you been all this time? I almost sent people to search the entire Huaxia Empire, but I did not see your shadow. You are really good at hiding. Tell me the truth. Where have you been hiding?" The enchantress of 100 Charms asked with a smile. However, the way she asked made people's imagination run wild. "Looking for me?" Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He had always been the one looking for her. This was the first time he heard that she took the initiative to look for him. He could not help but ask, "Master's wife, could it be that something happened?" The enchantress of 100 Charms and the smile on her face disappeared. She said seriously, "Something big might have happened." Chapter 331. What's wrong? Yu Qianqiu found a chair and sat down. A few months ago, 8 demonic sects were massacred. Did you do it? 100 Charm Demon Concubine asked. She knew he did it, but she still wanted to confirm it. Yu Qianqiu had asked her for information about the sects, so he naturally didn't plan on hiding it from her. He nodded and said, "I brought people to do it." "What's wrong? Did I mess things up?" 100 Charm Demon Concubine gave him a deep look and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. The 10,000 demons planned to take over the Yen father and son was destroyed by you. 8 sects were massacred in a row, and the hero caused the entire demonic path to panic. Everyone was worried that they would be the 9th sect, so the entire demonic path put pressure on the 10,000 demons. No matter how strong the 10,000 demons were, they couldn't go against the demonic path. Even if they obtained the Yen father and son strength, they would lose even more. The 10,000 demons couldn't withstand the pressure and finally led the demonic path and righteous path to attack. The Yen father and son were in imminent danger, but who knew that someone would help them? Hearing this, Yu Qianqiu relaxed. He didn't want the Yen father and son to be exterminated so quickly. His plan was that the Yen father and son's strength couldn't be exterminated, but they couldn't be exterminated. If the righteous path wanted to watch the demonic path attack, then he would think of a way to provoke them. On the other hand, if the demonic path didn't do anything, then he would provoke them, just like last time when he destroyed the 8 demonic sections. If the Yen father and son couldn't withstand it, then that wouldn't do. He would send out troops to help and drag the demonic path and righteous path down. It also wouldn't do if the Yen father and son were too strong. Then he would help the demonic path and righteous path suppress them. But the last possibility was a bit small. The Yen father and son's strength still didn't have the strength to win against the demonic path and righteous path. In short, whoever was lazy and didn't do anything, he would whip them in the back. And whichever side couldn't take it, he would help that side. He would do his best to make the war last as long as possible. Everyone would be in a deadlock like this. Once his strength had increased, he would come out to fish in troubled waters. Fuck. Is there anyone else who has the same plan as me? Damn it, this is too treacherous. Yu Qianqiu frowned. Who helped the Yen father and son? So you still don't know? The allure beauty shook her head. She frowned and slowly said, nearly 100 experts of the crossing tribulation stage suddenly appeared in the cultivation world. Among them, there are quite a few who are at the final stage of the crossing tribulation stage. The orthodox Tao and the devil Tao have put aside their prejudice and are discussing fervently. They are preparing to form an alliance to defend against the foreign enemies. At this point, the allure beauty stood up. Although her clothes were hot and seductive, she didn't look seductive at all. She looked out of the window and said in a sonorous voice, if a war really breaks out, and the situation is disadvantageous to the cultivation world of China, the enchanted palace will no longer hide our power. We will do our best to defend against the foreign enemies together with the orthodox Tao and the devil Tao. Although I, the allure beauty, am a woman, I will not give up my duty. Yu Qianqiu looked at her and was stunned for a while. Then, he slowly nodded. Yes. No matter how our brothers quarrel, it is still a matter of our own family. Even if the bones are broken, the tendons are still connected. Even if we break up the family, we will still have the same surname. Other people come to meddle. Their reasons are nice to hear, saying that they are helping someone, but they all have ulterior motives. Who knows what they are planning? Even if you use your but to think, you can be sure that they are harming others to benefit themselves. That's right, Master's wife, are there any movements from those people? After they made their move, they didn't make any movements. It was as if they were worried about something. If I didn't guess wrong. The allure beauty turned and looked at Yu Qianqiu. It could be because of you. Because of me. How is that possible? Yu Qianqiu was stunned. He stood up and waved his hands. Master's wife, I really have nothing to do with those people. If you don't believe me, I can swear to the heavens. I didn't say that it has something to do with you. It has something to do with the power behind you. The allure beauty explained. Think about it. When it comes to the matter of heroes, the Yen father and son know that they are fakes. But who are the real heroes? There is an unknown power hidden in the Chinese cultivation world. Since those outsiders have colluded with the Yen father and son, they must have found out the truth from the father and son's mouths. Sometimes, the power that is exposed is not scary. What is scary is the hidden and unknown power. Occasionally, it is ferocious, but it is hard to see clearly. This kind of power is often the most unsettling, making people not dare to act blindly without thinking. Yu Qianqiu rubbed his nose and smiled. Is the power behind me really as scary as Master's wife says? To be able to loot the Daluo sect spirit stone mine without anyone knowing and destroy 8 demonic sects in a day. Not to mention, there is an expert at the final stage of the tribulation passing stage. Even if they are not scary, they are not weak. The temptress stared at him with burning eyes and said, since you call me Master's wife, don't blame me for saying some harsh words. I don't care who's behind you. If the Huaxia cultivation world is in trouble, I won't ask you to pull them out to help, but you're not allowed to be enemies with the Huaxia cultivation world. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving Hao Sansi face. Even if I can't kill you, I'll definitely reveal your background. Think about the consequences. Threatening me. Yu Qianqiu's mouth opened slightly. He was speechless. But because they were in other countries, no one cared about them. Who would have thought that they'd become so powerful that they'd want to attack the Chinese cultivation world? So, they're here for revenge? Yu Qianqiu asked. It shouldn't be revenge. Those people who were banished have probably all died long ago. The practice of banishing people who violated the commandments was something that had happened a long time ago. In the past, those who were banished would always come back to cause trouble. So now, people who were found to have violated the commandments were usually killed. If the people who came this time were related to those people from before, they would only be their disciples and grand-disciples. The biggest possibility is that they will return to China to fight for resources, 100 Charm Beauty said. What resources? Yu Qianqiu asked curiously. He thought to himself, if it's something good, I will also get my hands on it. China has a vast territory and a large population. For the cultivation sects, this is a resource. 100 Charm Beauty said, some people say that the Xia Empire has a treasure that was lost in the ancient times. They are here to find such a treasure. A treasure from the ancient times. What is it? Yu Qianqiu's eyes lit up again. He was very interested in treasures. I'm not sure. 100 Charm Beauty shook her head and said, I heard that it's a treasure that can make one a god. The ancient war broke out because of this treasure. It was too long ago, and I'm afraid there are only a few people who know the details. Could it be the star pearl that Bai Changchun mentioned? Yu Qianqiu thought to himself. The enchantress of 100 Charms frowned slightly and walked to the window with her bare feet. She looked a little worried. Yu Qianqiu never would have thought that this kind of woman would love her country to such a degree. It was rare for a woman to be like this, and he admired her from the bottom of his heart. His fantasies towards her lessened, and a sense of respect arose within him. He followed her to the window and comforted her, Master's wife, don't worry. It's just a group of tribulation passing stage cultivators. You said that the cultivation world of our Xia Empire is full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. They won't be able to cause any trouble. Sigh. If it's just this, it won't be difficult to deal with them. The Fuxian Island and the 10,000 demons aren't weak either. I'm just afraid that they have more people. Now that both sides haven't made a move, let's wait and see what happens in the future. What about you? 100 Charm Beauty had a trace of worry on her face. When she turned around, it turned into a charming smile and asked, Little Fox, you've been elusive for a long time. What are you doing? Are you up to something again? Can you tell me a little? When he got closer, the beauty's body fragrance made him take a deep breath. Yu Qianqiu pretended to be careless and took a few steps back. He chuckled and said, It seems like Master's wife is prejudiced against me. I've always been honest and dutiful. What can I do? It's just that Master is watching me tightly and it's hard for me to come out and walk around. Get lost. You're honest. Then there won't be any honest people in this world. 100 Charm Beauty suddenly said in surprise, Why? You're still in contact with Guan Weiwu from the Fuxian Island. That means... Master's wife misunderstood again. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand and interrupted, Since the Fuxian Island expelled me from the sect, they wouldn't put me in their eyes. I have nothing to do with Guan Weiwu. Master's wife, please don't associate me with him in the future. At the mention of Guan Weiwu, his face turned ugly. Back then, when he was questioned, he really wanted that master to speak up for him. But in the face of his almost begging gaze, Guan Weiwu remained silent, and on the spot, his heart was almost completely broken, making him feel cold and sad. From that moment on, he made up his mind that there was no longer any relationship between them. He seemed to be a strong person, but because of something that others might not care about, he was really hurt. Therefore, he refused to associate him with Guan Weiwu. 100 Charm Beauty could see that he really couldn't have any relationship with Guan Weiwu. She chuckled and said, It seems like I've said too much. But it's strange. Could it be that you've acknowledged a third master? What I'm doing is considered treason in the cultivation world, right? He smiled non-committally, which could be considered as a disguised admission. The smile on 100 Charm Beauty's face twitched. Whether it was the righteous path or the demonic path, changing masters frequently was not something that was liked. No one could guarantee that they wouldn't accept disciples. Who would like their own disciples to acknowledge others as their master? Even if it was their own abandoned disciple. After a long period of time, everyone wouldn't have a good impression of such a person. In fact, everyone would despise such a person. Yu Qianqiu sneered and said, "Back then, someone in the Wu clan scolded me as the scum of the cultivation world. I think Master's wife also feels that my actions are shameful. But it doesn't matter. I am a thick-skinned person. If Master's wife doesn't like it, you can say whatever you want. This reputation is indeed not good. You can say it to me, and I naturally won't mind. But I advise you to not mention your master in front of others. It won't be beneficial for you to walk in the cultivation world in the future. After all, you have offended some people. In the past, when you acknowledged a second master in the supporting immortal island, everyone didn't say anything out of consideration for the supporting immortal island. But now that you don't have the protection of the supporting immortal island, and you acknowledged a third master, it is inevitable that someone will make things difficult for you. Therefore, if you can avoid mentioning your master, try your best not to mention it." 100 Charm Beauty's words were from the bottom of her heart. "Some people that I have offended." Yu Qianqiu let out a cold snort and spoke with a prideful expression, "My master's cultivation is exceedingly profound and unfathomable. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he is unrivaled in the world. Just based on them. They aren't even fit to carry my master's shoes, let alone know about an expert like my master." Such an arrogant tone instantly made the 100 Charm Beauty's eyes lit up. Unrivaled in the world. Kid, you can't casually wear this hat. Are you bragging? There might be many experts in the world, but no one dares to say that they are unrivaled in the world. I don't dare to say that I have seen all the experts in the cultivation world, but I have at least heard of the famous ones. Why don't you tell me your master's name? Let me see who is able to be crowned with the hat of unrivaled in the world." Since Yu Qianqiu had mentioned his master, he had a plan in his heart to reveal some information. Mainly, he wanted to ease her heart at this time. Secondly, he wanted to intimidate her and make her feel that he had a powerful background so that she wouldn't dare to act blindly without thinking. Otherwise, he was afraid that with her strong patriotism, she would contribute all her hidden forces to fight against foreign enemies at the slightest sign of trouble. Then how would he be able to grasp the situation of the cultivation world at any time? Moreover, this woman actually said words that revealed his background. This was clearly a threat. Didn't you want to use psychological methods to get information from me? Then let's see who is threatening who now. The muttering 100 Charms Beauty's body suddenly shook, and her pretty face became somewhat pale as she thought of that impossible possibility. She bit her lips and looked at Yu Qianqiu in bewilderment. "Little fox, could it be that your master's cultivation has already reached the legendary soul formation stage?" Yu Qianqiu solemnly cupped his fist and said, "My master's cultivation has already reached the peak of the final stage of soul formation. For him, becoming an immortal is only a step away." His words were quite frightening. The allure temptress's alluring red lips were slightly open, and she was a bit dumbfounded. After a while, she anxiously asked, "You just mentioned your master and the others, could it be that there are more than one soul formation stage like your master?" Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, "Of course there are many, but at their cultivation level, almost all of them concentrate on cultivation and don't care about worldly affairs. That's why very few people in the cultivation world know about them." The expression on the allure temptress's face changed, and no one knew what she was thinking. After some thought, she said, 2,000 years is not a short time, but it's not a long time either. With your master's cultivation level, he must not be a nobody 2,000 years ago. Why don't you tell me your master's name? Maybe I've seen your master's name in some ancient records. It's really not convenient to tell you my master's name, and besides. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and bitterly smiled. Besides, my master really didn't leave any big name in the cultivation world 2,000 years ago. He has always been rather low-key. Ha! The allure enchantress suddenly laughed. She pointed at Yu Qianqiu and scolded, "You're really a little fox. I was almost fooled by you. Fortunately, I know that you're not telling the truth. You said that your master is invincible, and is at the soul formation stage, but you said he is at the peak of the soul formation stage. Even if what you said is true, you actually dare to say that there are many soul formation stage cultivators in this world. Do you think you can find a lot of soul formation stage cultivators in the market? You want to lie to me, but you don't even know how to prepare a draft. I asked you to tell me your master's name to test you, but you've always been secretive. Little fox, you really are not a good thing." Yu Qianqiu was completely speechless. He really couldn't understand. He had told a lot of lies, but some people believed him, but no one believed him when he told the truth. Who could he tell this to? I can't be too honest in the future. A smile gradually appeared on Yu Qianqiu's face, but it was the kind that looked at an idiot. He sneered and said, "In this world, the hearts of the people are higher than the sky. It's understandable that you don't want to be with ordinary people. Master's wife forced me, so I said it." Although she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, the news she had received had confirmed the terrifying power of the monstrous flames. Even the Deluo sect leader's son had been killed, and the sect's elder Zhu Xianxian had to retreat. One could imagine how fierce this little fox's fire technique was. This secluded loft was made of pure wood, so how could it withstand such a fierce flame? The inside of the room was suddenly dyed a cyan color. She saw Yu Qianqiu raise a finger, and there was a cyan flame the size of a candle dancing on it. However, it was this small flame that turned everything in the room a demonic cyan color. "If you don't stop, it seems that Mistress plans on rebuilding the 10,000 flower house." Yu Qianqiu sneered, and that cyan flame instantly burst out with a heart-palpitating temperature. The vermilion paint on the furniture quickly melted, and the entire room was immediately filled with the smell of burning wood. If the temperature was just a bit higher, the entire building would be turned into a sea of fire. Cyan-colored flame. The allure enchantress's pupils shrank. There was actually a cyan-colored flame in this world. Could it be some kind of demonic flame? She had previously received news that Yu Qianqiu's fire technique could release a demonic red flame with an extremely high temperature, but this flame was a demonic cyan color. Although the color was different, she could feel the terrifying power contained in that cyan flame. The 100 phantoms in the room quickly merged into one, and the allure enchantress appeared in front of Yu Qianqiu with a face full of anger. She pointed her finger and shouted, "Little fox, you're crazy. If this fire starts, wouldn't my 10,000 flower house be exposed to the entire capital? When that time comes, how would I be able to hide here?" Yu Qianqiu was startled. "Damn it. You're the one who wants to make a move, so do you think I'll just sit and wait for death?" He cursed in his heart, but he had already retracted that cyan flame into his body. It seemed that this woman really wanted to exchange pointers. The high temperature that was emitted in the room actually followed the cyan flame and entered Yu Qianqiu's body. The room instantly recovered its coolness. The enchantress of 100 charms looked around. Seeing that there was no damage, she suddenly shouted again, "Today, this old lady must exchange pointers with you. If you dare to use fire spells again or damage a table or chair, this old lady will swallow you alive." As she said that, the phantoms rose again, and the allure enchantresses appeared from all directions. They all stretched out their claws. She no longer said anything, and attacked without any politeness. Yu Qianqiu almost fainted. This bitch's cultivation was originally higher than mine. Since it was a spar, she still restricted me from using fire techniques. How could you say that? She said with love and hate, damn you. Is this a water spell? So not only do you cultivate fire spells, you also cultivate water spells. Could this be the ability that your soul formation master taught you? Yu Qianqiu smiled non-committally. He didn't say yes, nor did he say no. He slowly floated in the water. One of his hands was raised in front of his chest. His thumb pressed against the middle finger that was bent towards the center of his palm. He made a hand seal, and a spherical space formed around him. Suddenly, he shouted, "Seal!" The whole house seemed to shake along with his shout. The floor and walls of the room made a light, creaking sound. The water in the room instantly turned into ice. A block of ice the size of a room suddenly formed just like that. The room immediately became a crystal-like world. The Allure Enchantress was not in the mood to appreciate it. She retracted her protective aura and felt a dense cold air rushing towards her. She used her hand to touch the curved surface of the ice that trapped her. She was shocked and said, "What a domineering spell. It can actually freeze such a big block of ice in an instant." As she said this, she looked at Yu Qianqiu cautiously and shouted, "Little fox, what are you trying to do?" "Mistress, don't misunderstand. This small amount of ice naturally can't trap mistress. It's just that mistress is naturally afraid of heat and wears so little clothes for a long time. I specially came to help mistress cool down for a while. Disciple still has some matters to attend to and can't stay for long. I will disturb you again in the future. Farewell." Yu Qianqiu bowed and said with a faint smile. He raised his hand and shot out a green fire dragon. A narrow ice path immediately opened up in the direction of the door. He stepped on the ice wall and his whole body slid out of the door. A black shadow flashed out of the room, did a few somersaults in the air, and landed steadily on the ground. Yu Qianqiu walked out of the room in a swaying manner. He could vaguely hear the voice of the Enchantress of 100 Charms scolding him, "Little fox, come back here for me, and help me melt this ice." He didn't have much time to waste with this mistress, so he turned a deaf ear to it. The Allure Enchantress released her divine sense and naturally discovered that Yu Qianqiu had walked far away. She was so angry that she gnashed her teeth. With her cultivation, this little bit of ice would not be able to trap her. She could completely shatter it and escape. However, the 10,000 flower pavilion was located in the bustling city of the capital. Such a big movement would definitely attract attention. Moreover, if she did that, the pavilion would be completely destroyed. Looks like this little fox had already calculated this beforehand. "Don't tell me that you can't wait to avoid me when you see me." The Allure Enchantress bit her red lips and a strand of red silk on her shoulder floated up. It rapidly struck the ice surface and in a short period of time, a 2 to 3 meter long passageway was created. The Allure Enchantress's figure flashed and she flew from this passageway to the passageway that Yu Qianqiu had created. She then bent her waist and flew out of the pavilion. The Allure Enchantress angrily looked around but she couldn't even see a shadow of Yu Qianqiu. She then looked at the frozen pavilion and was slightly stunned. She saw that on the roof of the pavilion, under the sunlight, there was actually a beautiful rainbow that just happened to envelop the pavilion. She couldn't take her eyes off it and the anger on her face turned into a gentleness that was unique to a woman. The next day, when she came back to the pavilion, she immediately gnashed her teeth in hatred. This pavilion had been roasted by Yu Qianqiu's fire, blistered and frozen. After the ice melted, how could it still be livable? It had to be renovated. Chapter 335. When he returned to the National Pillar General's residence, he saw Shi Shaotian waiting for him with a face full of joy. Yu Qianqiu looked back and saw passers-by passing by from time to time. He glared at Shi Xiaotian and walked over to bow. Third young master. Shi Xiaotian came to his senses and knew that he didn't want to be ostentatious in a crowded place. He immediately acted like a young master and nodded. Follow me. The two of them walked to the back garden. As they walked, Shi Xiaotian asked softly, Boss, I haven't seen you for a long time. Why didn't you tell me that you were coming? I only knew that you were here when I bumped into the two sisters-in-law. The cultivation world hasn't been peaceful recently, and I've been busy. I'll be going on a long journey soon, so I came back to settle some miscellaneous matters. I don't know when I'll be back again, Yu Qianqiu said. Shi Xiaotian nodded. Mother heard that you're here and wanted to pay her a visit. There's no need. Send my regards to your mother. As they spoke, the two of them arrived at the back garden. Yu Qianqiu suddenly said, I'm going to your father's place soon. Ask your mother and the rest if there's anything they want me to tell your father. It's best if it's a letter so that it's easier to pass on. Don't worry about me. Go ask them now. I can't stay for too long. Got it. Shi Xiaotian turned and ran. Although he didn't know what his boss was busy with, he knew that it wasn't easy for his boss to come. Yu Qianqiu walked into the courtyard alone. When he thought about the cultivation world, he couldn't help but worry about the safety of the family. Shi Xiaotian's cultivation was only at the late stage of foundation establishment. The old team members sent to protect the family were also at the nascent soul stage. It wasn't a big problem usually, but it was hard to say now. He had to raise their cultivation as soon as possible. His spiritual perception immediately locked onto Chen Feng in Utopia. He saw Chen Feng and Xiao Wanqing fighting for work, nodding and bowing like slaves. How was he asking Xiao Wanqing to take care of his life? He was clearly taking care of Xiao Wanqing's life. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and smiled bitterly. He sent a voice transmission. Chen Feng, how many limit-breaking pills did you refine? Give me some first. Boss. Chen Feng was taken aback at first, then awkwardly said, I haven't refined it yet. I'll come back tomorrow. Xiao Wanqing saw him talking to the air and couldn't help but look around blankly. Yu Qianqiu's expression immediately darkened. He disappeared from the courtyard and appeared beside the two people from Utopia. Xiao Wanqing saluted with some resentment, Leader. Yu Qianqiu nodded and said, Since you're with Chen Feng, then you're family. There's no need to be so polite in the future. Hearing this, Chen Feng was quite satisfied and nodded repeatedly at Xiao Wanqing. He placed them on the table and said, Keep the white one for yourself. Give the purple one to the team members who are guarding the general's mansion and Ling Feng and the other two. I will bring them here as soon as possible. There's no need to gather so many people now. Otherwise, I will go bankrupt. He then told Shi Xiaotian about the effects of the two pills and how to consume them. Shi Xiaotian was surprised. Since there's such a difference between the two pills, why are you giving the purple one to Ling Feng and the other two? That's not very good. Don't be so long-winded. I know what to do. I won't harm them. Yu Qianqiu took out another storage bag and threw it on the table. He sighed. I'm so poor. Here are 10 million high-grade spirit stones. You guys can make do with it. Before he finished speaking, his expression changed. Oh no, Xianping is in danger. Wait for me here. Shi Xiaotian saw that Yu Qianqiu had suddenly disappeared, but he heard his words clearly. His face turned solemn as he muttered, What danger would Xianping be in? In the outside world, Yu Qianqiu was still unable to teleport with his cultivation. If he relied on the mysterious effect of the golden bead, as long as there were coordinates in the outside world that he needed, Utopia would be his bridge to any shore. No matter how far the distance was, he would be able to reach it in an instant. After suddenly sensing Xian Ping's distress signal, Yu Qianqiu immediately returned to Utopia and disappeared again. Speaking of which, Xian Ping was a man of few words and was too straightforward. To put it bluntly, he was a one-track mind. After separating from Ling Feng and Bei Zi, he came to a relatively large city in the Hua-Xia Empire. On the same day, he met a few orphans with spiritual roots. Thinking that he would definitely need a place to stay when there were more people, he couldn't possibly stay in an inn. That would be too conspicuous. Hence, he was in a hurry to find a house to rent. As the saying went, the land and water nurtured the people of the area. The people here were more arrogant. When they heard that Xian Ping did not have a local accent and saw that he was dressed extravagantly, they asked him, "You don't look like a local. Do you need a house urgently?" Xian Ping replied honestly, "I need it urgently." Hence, there was no problem with renting a house. The price was too high to say anything. Although Xian Ping was a little slow, he was not an idiot. After all, he had stayed in the capital for a long time and understood the price of goods. How could the rent of such a place be twice as high as in the capital? He discussed with them but to no avail, so he rejected them. In the end, he asked a few houses in a row and found that each house was blacker than the other. It was all because of the landlord at the beginning. The group of landlords worked together to rip him off. Hence, he returned to the first house. Why would a non-sect itinerant cultivator collect so many children with spiritual roots? Moreover, he was so rich. After a few questions, Xian Ping saw that a few kind-hearted people who helped him did not believe him. In a moment of desperation, in order to prove himself, he actually said that he was an abandoned disciple of the supporting immortal island and that he only succeeded in the foundation-building realm by chance after leaving the island. He was not so stupid that he did not give up on Yu Qianqiu. The herb-gathering disciples of the Deluo sect looked at each other in dismay. They were still somewhat skeptical, but they could not resist the temptation of a large amount of spiritual stones. However, if they made a move here, they were afraid that Xian Ping's helpers would come. Therefore, they found an excuse to ask for his help and deceived Xian Ping into the deep mountains behind the temple. The result was naturally ferocious. Xian Ping's situation immediately became precarious. Among the 8 people, aside from 2 whose cultivation was lower than Xian Ping's, the others were all higher than him. Especially the leader, who was in the early stage of core formation. How could Xian Ping be a match for them? Fortunately, Yu Qianqiu was worried about the 3 people's safety and gave each of them a pile of talismans to protect themselves. Under the encirclement of the 8 people, Xian Ping used a bunch of random talismans to open a path and actually killed his way out of the encirclement and fled. However, his body was also riddled with wounds. At the critical moment, he was lucky that he knew to take out the silver ball that Yu Qianqiu had given him and send out a distress signal. However, he wasn't confident and didn't know if it would be of any use. There were core formation cultivators among the 8 people. In terms of speed, Xian Ping couldn't escape very far. After using up all the talismans he had, he was finally trapped in a valley. Xian Ping looked around and sadly discovered that Yu Qianqiu had not appeared in time. Just as he was about to fight to the death, he saw a servant in black clothes and a black hat suddenly appear on top of a nearby rock. Such a coquettish and familiar attire, who else could it be but Yu Qianqiu? Boss didn't lie to me, he really did come to save me. Xian Ping, who was riddled with wounds and dressed in rags, was so excited that tears almost flowed out. With a trembling voice, he loudly shouted, "Boss!" The 8 of them immediately noticed Yu Qianqiu, who was on top of the mountain rock. He was dressed like a servant, yet he had suddenly appeared in the remote mountains. It was too strange. The leading core formation cultivator shouted, "The Deluo sect is handling business. Unrelated people, get out of the way." He discovered that with his cultivation level, he couldn't see through the person's cultivation level and immediately panicked. Thus, he used the name of the Deluo sect. The Deluo sect is handling business. Unrelated people, get out of the way. Yu Qianqiu snorted and jumped down from the rock with a sullen face. He walked toward the surrounded Xian Ping without the slightest scruple, laughing evilly as he said, "Deluo sect. What a great show of power. Hee hee. It seems that I and the Deluo sect have an inexplicable fate. I can't even pick a corner and run into them. What a goddamn coincidence." Chapter 336. From his words, he seemed to be an old acquaintance of the Deluo sect. The 8 hesitantly let him pass. In reality, since they couldn't see through his cultivation, none of them dared to stop him. Yu Qianqiu sized up Xian Ping, who was in rags and covered in wounds, and asked in a deep voice, what exactly happened? Xian Ping was relieved that his boss was here. He angrily glared at the 8 and told them everything that had happened. Yu Qianqiu's eyebrows rose higher and higher as he listened. He coldly looked at the 8 and suddenly snorted, 8 against 1. As expected of the Deluo sect's disciples. How could you do such a thing? You dared to provoke my people, humph. It's your bad luck to fall into my hands. None of you will escape today. The 8 were shocked. They couldn't see through this newcomer's cultivation and he spoke so arrogantly. He must be an expert. The core formation cultivator took a step forward and cupped his hands. Senior, please calm down. From your words, you seem to have a deep relationship with our Deluo sect. I believe we mishandled this matter and caused a misunderstanding. I hope that Senior will give face to our Deluo sect and be magnanimous. The cultivation world didn't judge one's age based on one's appearance. They determined that Yu Qianqiu was an expert based on his cultivation. Deep relationship. When Yu Qianqiu heard this, he laughed and teased, "You are right. I am indeed very familiar with your Deluo sect. Furthermore, our friendship is not shallow. For example, I am very familiar with your Deluo sect's elder, Zhu Xianxian." The 8 people were pleasantly surprised as they looked at each other. It seemed like they managed to escape unscathed. The leader of the group bowed deeply and said, "So it turns out to be Elder Zhu's good friend. We were too rash." Then he nodded to the others. The 8 people bowed together and said, "Greetings, Senior." Yu Qianqiu didn't act polite and accepted their greetings. Xian Ping was a little discouraged. It turned out that boss was familiar with them. It seemed like he wouldn't be able to take revenge. The core formation cultivator smiled and said, "Since Senior is Elder Zhu's friend, could you tell me your name? I'll go back and report it. If Elder Zhu asks, it'll be easier for us to answer." He thought this matter was over and wanted to return to the sect. Yu Qianqiu shook his head and said, "It's better not to say my name. If your sect master finds out, he will definitely be furious." "Senior, why is that?" The core formation stage cultivator asked in confusion. Sigh. Yu Qianqiu let out a long sigh and said, "Back then, I lost control of myself outside the 100 Flowers Valley and killed your sect leader's son, Luo Xiaohan. I even killed a few Deluo sect disciples and scared Zhu Xianxian away. How could your sect leader not be furious when he found out my name?" Ah! The group of people turned pale with fright after hearing this. The core formation stage cultivator pointed at him and stammered, You're Yu Qianqiu." Yu Qianqiu raised an eyebrow and dusted the crooked hat on his head. He sneered and said, "That's right, I am Yu Qianqiu. Hee hee. I didn't expect you to know me. It seems like my name is quite famous in your Deluo sect." With his confirmation, all 8 of them subconsciously took a step back with pale faces. How could the name Yu Qianqiu not be famous in the Luo sect? Ever since he beat up Luo Xiaohan at the Wu clan, everyone in the Daluo sect had heard of his name. Afterward, he became even more infamous outside the 100-Flower Valley. He killed Luo Xiaohan and all the disciples, and even the sect elder, Zhu Xianxian, had to avoid him. As a result, the Luo sect became the laughingstock of the entire cultivation world. A humiliation in exchange for Yu Qianqiu's reputation. In a fit of rage, the sect master ordered his disciples to search for this person. Unfortunately, Yu Qianqiu's whereabouts were elusive. Almost no one had ever seen him. Everyone thought that he was afraid of the Luo sect's revenge and had hidden away in some corner of the sect. Now that the cultivation world had undergone a great upheaval, the Daluo sect had put away their thoughts and had almost forgotten about this person. Who would have thought that they would run into this malefic star here? This guy could even scare away a tribulation-passing stage elder, so how could they, with their mere cultivation, stand a chance against him? Xian Ping, who was covered in wounds, couldn't help but laugh. He thought to himself, I thought I wouldn't be able to get my revenge. Boss is so funny. He's obviously the enemy, but he's still trying to be friends. Xian Ping naturally knew of the Luo sect's status in the cultivation world. Now that he saw the Luo sect's disciples scared of their boss, he felt proud. He didn't follow the wrong person. Yu Qianqiu, don't be so insolent. Hiding in the wilderness and bullying us little disciples is nothing. If you have the ability, come to my Luo sect. The core formation stage cultivator knew that today was not going to be a good day, so his tone became tough. Yu Qianqiu sneered. Thank you for your warm invitation. Don't worry. Even if the Luo sect doesn't come looking for me, I will. When I come looking for your Luo sect, it will be the day that the Luo sect's name is erased from the cultivation world. Xian Ping. He turned around and shouted. Revenge. Whoever hurt you, beat them up. Don't let a single one of them go. My people aren't that easy to bully. They're a bunch of blind bastards. Xian Ping was a dull person, but people like him always hated evil. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth with his tattered sleeves, he raised his sword and rushed towards a person without hesitation. The heaviest sword wound on his back was caused by this person's flying sword. With his boss backing him up, he naturally had to get revenge. The man fearfully glanced at his fellow disciples to his left and right. Suddenly, he threw away his flying sword, jumped onto it, and turned around to flee. You're running to the sky. Yu Qianqiu snorted and pointed his finger. A glistening water dragon shot out from his finger and quickly chased after the man. Water. Everyone, including those from the Luo sect, was stunned. They had never seen a spell like this. Before the man could get far, the water dragon wrapped around him and he struggled. The water dragon gradually shrank, and the man's body gradually expanded. His stomach, in particular, was unbelievably big. The man looked like he was in pain. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to call for help, but the water dragon wrapped around him sucked in a lot of water. With a bang, the man exploded. Blood rained down from the sky, along with broken skin and broken limbs. A skinless head fell in front of everyone. This kind of death was a ghastly sight to the group of people, and they were extremely terrified. Yu Qianqiu waved his hand, and the scattered water reformed into a water dragon and flew back. However, it was dyed red with blood. Yu Qianqiu frowned. You ruined my nest of good water. He formed a seal with his fingers, and the blood instantly turned into dozens of cold red icicles. They covered the sky and glared at the people below. Whoever dares to run will end up like this. My people are not to be trifled with. Behave yourselves and wait to be slaughtered. Yu Qianqiu scanned the crowd and said coldly. Xian Ping looked at the red icicles in the sky. With the help of his boss, he immediately became spirited. The flying sword in his hand quickly shot towards a person who was in a daze. That person didn't even have the time to react. He didn't even have the time to scream before his head was sent flying by a fountain of blood. His eyes were wide open in the air as he died with grievances. Since they were going to die either way, why would they wait to be slaughtered? The core formation cultivator shouted, "Split up and run. Those who can escape with their lives, hurry back to the sect and let them avenge us." In an instant, the 7 of them jumped onto their flying swords and flew away. "If I can't even deal with you guys, then what the hell am I supposed to do?" Yu Qianqiu sneered. He formed a seal with his fingers, and the red icicles in the air scattered and chased after them. With his nascent soul cultivation, chasing after these people with his icicles was a piece of cake. In all directions, screams could be heard. One by one, they fell from the flying swords in the air. Those who fell were all pierced by the icicles and were pinned to the ground, struggling in pain. Xian Ping chased after them and chopped off their heads one by one. This silent gourd was really hard to tell, but he was also ruthless. The core formation cultivator on the other hand had some skills. A few icicles that chased after him were all smashed by his palm. In the end, dozens of icicles surrounded him, and he immediately smashed a few more. Suddenly, his body trembled, and his chest felt cold. Looking down, he saw an icicle protruding from his chest. Perhaps he knew he was going to die. He raised his head to the sky and howled. Suddenly, his howl stopped, and he fell from the sky like a hedgehog. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.